free response essay format, if I can kind of make this. Okay, so you should have a paper from me to copy these notes down, but it's okay if you do not. Okay, here we go. That's as best as it's going to come. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over is that this is just a really easy structure that's easy to understand, and it's going to help you write a rhetorical analysis essay on the AP exam. It's basically foolproof, so that means that this is going to be a really solid way that you can ensure that you're going to get points for this exam free response question. So you guys know how to differentiate between different scores. We looked at those student samples. We looked at the rubric. You know how you can earn those points on the rhetorical analysis essay. So this format, like I said, it's easy to memorize and it's easy to understand. You do need this piece of paper and the notes copied, because you can use this during our timed writings that we do in class. So this is just going to help you practice, help you get used to this format and all of that. So every rhetorical analysis prompt is going to be the same. So let's look at here right now. What does well-developed mean? So first, RA prompts will always ask you to examine rhetorical choices such as diction, syntax, any kind of device, etc., and explore how these choices link to a purpose or effect. So the really important part here is that you are exploring how these choices link to a purpose. So you have to come up with that purpose, which you should already be doing in the soapstone, and then you have to explain it in your essay. So these choices that you pick are obviously going to be a part of your explanation. You may find dozens of rhetorical choices in a passage, but you want to focus on a few that will develop your point. So remember, we talked about choosing 2 to 3 rhetorical choices is optimal. So those 2 to 3 choices that you pick should somehow be connected. So remember how diction, syntax, and tone are all probably going to be connected in some way. So you're going to be able to make those connections and write about them in your essay. So where you have to start off, obviously, is the basic thesis statement. So here's just kind of a format for you to use, so that way you can ensure that you get that thesis point. So the first thing that you do in your basic thesis statement is you identify SOAPs. So remember, that's speaker, occasion, audience, purpose, and subject. So you want to make sure that you have that sentence. We've been practicing it since the beginning of the year, so this should not be an issue for you. But just make sure that you identify the rhetorical situation with your soapstone sentence right there. This is going to be a 2-sentence thesis. So your second one is going to have the author's name. So Albright uses mainly X, Y, and Z. So this is basically going to be you listing your rhetorical choices and then telling you what is the purpose of those rhetorical choices. Okay? So that is what that is. So there you have your basic thesis format. It should be good. So it's always going to be SOAPs and then that format. All right, so now this is what's going to get into the bulk of this here. Is going to be the triangle, actually. Here, there we go. So you can see that this is a triangle shape. So this is on purpose. So the intro is going to be your smallest paragraph, and then your last support is going to be your largest paragraph. So that's why we have it in a triangle, and it's going to be different from anything that you've probably ever seen before, which is okay. It's just going to take a little bit of practice. You're also going to see these CECs in each support paragraph, which I'll go over in a second, but I want to go over the intro first. So your intro is going to have about 1 to 2 engaging sentences, and then your thesis, and then that's it. So your introduction should only be about 3 to 4 sentences long, and 2 of those sentences are your thesis statement. So make sure that you are not repeating yourself. You're not giving useless information. You're not trying to fluff it up. You're just getting right to the point. That's the purpose of the intro paragraph. So once you do that, you move on to your first support paragraph. So this is the guts. This is where the most important information is going to come in. to play for the next 3 paragraphs. So the first support paragraph is called the fondle. I know that's a funny word, but whenever you think of the word fondle, it means to touch lightly, to graze lightly. So here you're going to lightly start getting into your information, but you are still going to follow the CEC format. So let's go over that very quickly. So the first C is your claim. So this is the controlling idea that links to the prompt or the thesis. So basically a topic sentence that ties in your rhetorical choice and how does it work. Then you're going to move on to your evidence. So this is going to be examples of dominant rhetorical choices here. That basically means that you're going to either give me a short quote or you're going to explain it very lightly of an example. So remember our little quote that we memorized, long quotes are for losers. So we want to make sure that we're not using long quotes for our evidence. It's just short quotes that show dominant rhetorical choices. But then you're going to go into your last C, which is your commentary, your most important part. So these sentences of commentary are going to be about your example and how does it tie your evidence back to your thesis. So here's where you're going to be putting everything together. You're going to be explaining it in detail. You're going to make those connections between the evidence and your original claim. So this fondle paragraph here, you only have one rhetorical choice. So you have to still, in depth, dig deep with that rhetorical choice, but you haven't engaged any other rhetorical choices yet. So it's going to be the smallest paragraph because you only have that to talk about. So then you're going to go into the attack. So this attack paragraph is whenever you introduce your second choice, you put your claim at the beginning here, so you're that controlling idea, and then you're going to start building on this second paragraph, the attack. It's called the attack because you're really starting to get at it now. You can start tying in your first rhetorical choice with your second rhetorical choice here. There can be more commentary because you have more to go off of because you already introduced that first rhetorical choice. So make sure you're making those connections. You're giving more information. You are still giving evidence, but remember, still short quotes. But this one is going to be larger just because of you're going to have more information. And then the last support paragraph is called the rally. So we call this the rally because whenever you think of the word rally, it means that you're coming back better than ever. You're coming at it full force again. So the rally brings it all together. So you're either here introducing your third rhetorical choice, and then you're tying that rhetorical choice back to the other 2 rhetorical choices. So that's even more that you're going to be writing about and making connections to. Or you're making just bigger connections with your first 2 rhetorical choices. Either way, that is going to make the rally your largest paragraph because you have the most to talk about in this paragraph. You already set up the chief reader for all of your points. Here, you're just bringing it all together. You're digging deep, and it's your biggest paragraph, basically. Which kind of brings us then to the conclusion. Oh my gosh, here we go. Okay. So there's a question mark here because if you include a conclusion, it should offer a condensed and powerful restatement of your strongest points or offer big picture historical societal implications. So basically here, you should not waste your time unless you have something new to say or something very elaborate and detailed. The chief reader does not want you to have a repetition paragraph that you guys are really used to using in a conclusion. They don't want to know, they don't want a summary of what you just talked about. They just read it. So they just do not want you to be a broken record. So if you include a conclusion, it has to be a specific, it has to be special, and it has to offer new ideas. If you cannot do that, you do not need to include one. Your rally paragraph should be able to wrap everything up in itself, and if it does what it's supposed to, you do not need an conclusion paragraph. So here are your options. Basically, you have 3 options, and if you feel like your rally paragraph is very strong, I wouldn't even include one. It's just going to waste some time, and it's not going to give you that much. So writing of the past is no more for the rhetorical analysis. If you have any questions, let me know. But that's just basically an overview. Make sure you have these notes down. Oops. Okay. And that's basically it. So let me know if you have any questions.